Hello everybody, this is Kevin from Klotz Productions, and this game is Boros Bushwhacker vs. Vampires. Kyle started out with an opening hand of 2 marsh flats, 2 mountains, 1 arid mesa, an adventuring gear, and a path to exile. He led the game off by playing his adventuring gear on turn 1. Ian's first spell of the match was a Sign in Blood, which he used on himself to draw 2 cards. Kyle played a Goblin Guide and equipped it with his adventuring gear. He then sacrificed his marsh flats to pump his guide to a 4/4 in attack, revealing a Tendrils of Corruption on the top of Ian's library. Ian cracked a marsh flats of his own to play a Vampire Nighthawk, but Kyle got rid of it with a Path to Exile. Kyle played and cracked another marsh flats and then attacked Ian with his guide for 6 more damage, revealing a swamp on the top of his library. Ian used a Disfigure to get rid of Kyle's Goblin Guide, and then he followed it up with a Vampire Hexmage. Ian cast a Vampire Nocturnus, revealing a swamp on the top of his library. He then decided to crack his Verdant Catacombs to reshuffle his library, but Kyle killed his Nocturnus with a Lightning Bolt in response, and then Ian decided to pass the turn, leaving his Hexmage open to block. Kyle once again had no plays on his turn, and then Ian took the opportunity to hit him for 2 damage with his Hexmage. Kyle finally played another creature, this time in the form of a Step Lynx. Ian tried to use a Disfigure to kill it, but Kyle used a Path to Exile on his Lynx in response to accelerate his lands. Ian got in there for 2 more damage with his Hexmage. Then on Kyle's turn he played an Earthquake for 5, but in response Ian cracked a Marsh Flats and then played a Tendrils of Corruption on his own guy to gain himself 7 life. Ian untapped and then played a Vampire Nocturnus, revealing a Verdant Catacombs on the top of his library. Kyle cast a Plated Geopede and then a Hellspark Elemental. He then equipped his adventuring gear to his Hellspark Elemental, and then laid down a fetched land and attacked. Ian decided to block the Hellspark Elemental and take 2 damage. Ian then resolved a second Vampire Nocturnus, this time revealing a Tendrils of Corruption on the top of the library. Kyle unearthed his Hellspark and then equipped his adventuring gear on it again. He then played and cracked an Arid Mace to pump his guys. He then attacked with both of them. Then in response, Ian cracked his Verdant Catacombs to search for a swamp. He then played a Tendrils of Corruption on the Hellspark Elemental to gain 8 life before taking the damage from the Plated Geopede. Ian showed a Gatekeeper of Malachor on the top of his library, so he played a Sign in Blood on himself to go ahead and draw it, and then kicked it to get rid of Kyle's Plated Geopede. The new card on top of the library was a swamp, keeping his Nocturnus unpumped. He then attacked with his Vampire Nocturnus for 3, and then at the end of his turn he laid down a Vampire Hexmage before passing. Kyle laid down a Step Lynx on his turn and equipped his adventuring gear to it, and then on Ian's turn a Vampire Hexmage showed up on the top of the library, triggering his Nocturnus and giving him enough to swing for lethal.